Welcome to Beyond the Circus. This is Dale Hummel with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
Ryan, I invited a guest with us today.
Yes, and it is not a presidential candidate like you promised, but it is a wonderful person that we all...
And I don't know that we should bring somebody of his age into a Beyond the Circus.
He can vote.
And he will vote, so we're good. We're good to go. Chase, thanks for coming on today.
Not that his vote's going to matter in the state of Illinois, but...
So we do have Chase with us for the purpose, and I'm sure he'll insert some other opinions, but to clarify some of the technical details that we may cover today that may or may not happen here domestically and on the world stage. So Chase, thank you for jumping in.
Least I can do.
Okay, so where do you want to start then?
I don't know. I'm going to go all over the place today.
Well,
I'm hoping it doesn't take.
I know you're going to go all over the place. So let's start somewhere. Where do you want to start?
I would like to toss out the question in a lot of. Oh, it's just going to go in so many circles.
No, again,
I'd like to toss out the simple question: did they throw him to the wolves, Joe? That is going into that debate.
So we're starting with the debate.
Yes, let's go there.
Okay,
let's start there.
that's all I wanted from you.
And I want from you: did they intentionally know he was going to do this? Did somebody behind it?
Since we're starting with the debate, I would like for you to admit that I was correct
on your theory of they did throw him to the wolves.
No, you asked me for a prediction on the Beyond the Rain podcast that we recorded before the debate, and my prediction was that his debate performance would be so terrible that they would try to get him ousted. I would like for you to tell me.
No, you absolutely have that on record. No question at all.
Thank you.
And that ties into so many things about when the debate was, why it was as early as it was before we even have a true nominee in either party. There's so many questions to be answered. So many.
I'm going to be honest with you. When they were throwing out every detail of the 6-day debate prep, that there were 16 preppers and they had lasagna for dinner and the number of golf carts that it was required to take these people, that it was in an airplane hangar and all this other stuff, I thought, why are we doing this? Why? Like, isn't it bad enough that you have to say that your guy has to leave his job as leader of the free world and commander of chief for 6 days to prepare for a debate, which he is supposedly actively doing the job as the American president? So why would he need to be prepped on this?
And has been on more debates, political debates, than any other person on the planet.
Probably any politician in history, because he has literally been in Washington for 50 plus years now. So I was like, why do we need all this information? This just makes you look dumb. And I'm going to be honest, I don't tell you or our listeners that I don't know the answers very often, or I don't have an opinion very often. And on whether this was intentional and they threw him to the wolves on purpose, I thought when they wanted a debate before either one of them were the nominees, and this was all Biden, by the way. I want to make sure that the listener, Biden set the time, the date,
or somebody controlling Biden, not Biden, but his
the Biden
inner circle.
Administration.
Yes,
the time,
whoever that may be,
the time, the date, the place, all the rules, everything. They picked CNN, the Clinton News Network, all this stuff. So, and the one thing I'm going to say is they're not saying it was rigged and it was all these other people's fault. They are owning that they did all this. They had everything they wanted. And I thought, they have to get him out before the convention. So they're going to let him do a poor debate and it's going to be terrible. And it was terrible and all this. But when they had these 16 people they're just to confuse him more. I don't know. And
I don't know. I think they tried to prepare him. I'm almost convinced of it.
And so I want to tend to lean that way too, because if they were just going to throw him to the well, I don't know why you would send out all this stupid information.
Unless, does that contribute to throwing him to the wolves that we did all this prep and he still failed?
Well, I thought that for the first couple of days. And in terms of the debate, I'm sure most people watched it. It was even worse than I thought. The only thing worse is the man would have literally fallen down on the stage. That's the only other thing worse that could have happened.
He nearly did coming off the stage.
Which I was going to say, if you saw him getting off the stage, then you probably did, but they didn't show that to the 70 million people or whatever that watched it. That was just outtakes from a cell phone. But anyhow,
I thought for a minute he was going to fall asleep when he did shut his eyes, contemplating how he was going to get another word out of his mouth. I really thought he was going to go just asleep. Gone.
But it was awful and terrible, and you can take all the things that... See, Dale does not understand because he thinks that everybody watches the news like he and I do, and I tried to explain to him on multiple times, but I think I finally had a nerve this morning that it is my parents' generation, not even his generation, that's and those people are biting the dust left and right, just being real honest. Like, that's the last people that made it a point to sit down and watch the news at night after dinner.
When there's usually a local news at 8 or 9
or before dinner or whatever. That generation is the last one. So when
religiously open that newspaper up and read it.
And read it every morning. Yes. And Dale just thinks, well, this happens all the time. I mean, we see it all the time. I said, you see it. I see it.
So I'm going to go back. You thought this was worse than what Biden what you thought it would be?
Yes.
I thought he did better than what I predicted. I did.
Didn't. I have your text messages. You do not.
I was worried that he was going to come out and sound good and energetic. I was very worried about all those things. But barring any caffeine, Adderall, whatever, barring any chemical mixture that might pep him up a little bit, I thought he would be here or worse. I don't know. I shouldn't say worse, but I've seen. Don't you believe him?
It was
trying to sit down in chairs that don't exist, walking off totally lost, trying to shake. We've seen this for years.
You have seen it.
This is not. This should not be a surprise to anyone.
It is a surprise. It's a surprise to the. Did you not listen? You and Clifton listened to CNN. No, they did not. CNN
Those
and
people,
MSNBC.
You really believe they were that surprised that he failed?
Yes, I do.
I can't. I think they're just lying.
You cannot fake the lady that cried.
You're right.
You cannot fake the disappointment in Van Jones, who said, "I love Joe Biden." And this was pain. You can't fake those things.
No,
these are not actors.
I think they were just dreamland that he was going to pull it off somehow. But they are watching the news. They are in the news. They know he's not capable. They were praying he would pull it off somehow. This long shot, Hail Mary that, oh my God, he's going to get out there and he's going to sound good. I'm out. I don't doubt. You're right. You can't fake that, but they should. How about this? They should have known.
I think they should have known, but also, and I'm throwing you under this bus too, when you're that far right and you're that far left, a lot of y'all sweep a lot of shit under the rug. You got a just true believerism in you.
I think definitely on the left, yes.
And y'all got a lot of true believerism in you, and it's fine to shoot people in the kneecaps, or he's not crazy, and he's not got dementia, and he's not senile, and maybe he tripped some. But the bigger point in all this for me is they went, everyone in the Democratic Party between Thursday night and Sunday morning basically said he has to go. He's out. He's done. Trump will win. We have to replace him, all this other stuff. Because
there may have been one or two that try not to.
Nancy Pelosi, that's it. That's all. That's all.
Was still trying to prop him up. Your boyfriend, Mr. Newsom, out in California, was trying to, but there were very, very few. And I was shocked. I'm going to interrupt just 1 second. I apologize. I was shocked, and I have watched more MSNBC and CNN during and since the debate than I have my entire life. I sacrificed myself so our listeners didn't have to. And I brought Chase in as soon as the debate was over. He was in and out during the debate. but Chase came in and noticed CNN or MSNBC was on. And Chase, what did you see? Since maybe I'm a little biased.
They were tearing him to pieces. It was this like jarring moment that I thought, like Ryan said, that there was just going to be true believerism, that they would wave it off. They'd say, he doesn't have dementia. You're imagining things. He's just tired. You're making a mountain out of molehills. What they always say about his stuttering and his looking off at La La Land. And just like that, they turned on him, and they stopped making excuses in that moment and just shredded the man.
Right. And Dale, on the debate, for those that I for me and from the people that I know that contacted me that don't follow politics religiously but did watch the debate, I don't think it is so much as what he said or did not say. It was his voice, how feeble he looked, and when he wasn't talking, the fact he couldn't hold his head up, he didn't know which way to look, and when they zoomed in on his, because it was pretty much a split screen the whole time, when you would just look at him when Trump was talking, it was like the lights are on, but gone. No one is home.
Just gone.
I think it was more a visual than what he said or didn't say. And at least the people that don't watch like you and I do, don't keep up, those are like, how is this person even get up in the morning? And I was like, yeah, I get it.
No, that's exactly right. I'm going to be, and again, I'm a little right. I'm maybe a little conservative. I may be biased. I may be a lot of things. But in my true opinion, if you were to put Joe into an apartment building somewhere that he's even somewhat familiar with the area, I do not believe he can take care of himself on a daily basis. I know that sounds crazy. The president of the United States not being able to get up in the morning, function, get breakfast, go somewhere for breakfast, lunch, whatever, come back home, just perform normal daily functions. I believe he's past that point.
Right. I'm not disagreeing with you. And so all the Democrats shredded him. Gavin did and you say Gavin was in the spin room. He was leading the spin room for the Democrats. And he flat said this was a bad night.
Yes. He could not.
I don't think he really did. Pelosi has gone hard. And camel toe, she has to. She has no other choice.
And I have to say something about her interview post-debate. That's the best she's ever done. And I did not like, I still didn't like it. And I do not like her. There's nothing about that lady that I like, but she did a better job than she's ever done on camera.
I didn't watch it, but I'm not saying you're wrong. She has gotten better because she's been on the stump more than ever before and all this. But the snapshot polling after the debate was 67% said Trump won, 33% said Biden won. You can't fake those numbers. Yeah. And we're talking about how bad Joe did, and that is true. I want to say also that for the first half of the debate, I thought Trump was probably as good as he's ever been.
I would agree.
He was measured. He had the right tone. He said the right things. He pretty much answered all the questions. There was two that he completely avoided answering. He did avoid answering them very well by going back. No, I want to respond to what Joe said. I don't remember if one of those was in the first half or not, but the first half, I thought he was probably the best he's ever been. And I don't think the second half was bad at all. It just wasn't as good as the first half. But like I told Dale this morning, I cannot imagine having to stand up there for 90 minutes and debate a vegetable without getting frustrated. And that's just me. But I'm not very good with patience, so I would not be one. But so we're talking about how bad Joe did, but I do want to say that I thought overall his tone, his tenor, and all the Democrats have said is, oh, he lied. I don't think he really lied that much. I'm not saying that there weren't some things that maybe he got wrong. Like, he did get wrong the super predator saying that was Hillary Clinton, not Joe Biden. But this, he lied. Yeah, there's been no fact checkers that have really come out with those things. So when the fact checkers aren't speaking, I think that's just spin.
See, I've been watching the other networks, and the fact checkers are there. I don't know. I don't agree with all the fact checkers. However, I think what Trump does, it gets him into a bind. I'm not saying he came out and lied. It's his his nature is to exaggerate everything. And because of those exaggerations, even though the basis is correct, because he adds a few numbers or he puts a few adjectives in there, all of a sudden it becomes, in their mind, they can turn it into a lie.
No, and
that's where I'm at.
And I agree completely with you, but part of not only just his personality, but also the fact the man has been in TV as long as he has. That exaggeration comes second nature, I guess.
Yeah, I wish he could rein it in, but I don't think he can. If he could, I think all of a sudden that's all they're throwing darts at the moment. Obviously, from the debate, I should say. But if he could rein that in, it makes it a lot harder for them to throw more darts. And I think Ryan even gets confused sometimes on what I am truly, as far as being negative on Trump on occasion. I want him in the White House so bad, and I want that policy back. And I think he's the only person right now that is going to be strong enough to get things back in order, that I get so frustrated that I want him to do everything possible correctly to put himself in a position to get in the White House. And I want the best of both worlds. I want somebody that strong with that much confidence, arrogance, whatever you want to call it, that can make those decisions and not give a shit about what anybody else thinks. But I want this politically correct person to get elected. And those two just don't go together very well.
No, they don't. But
that's my perfect world. I just want him in there. I want him to modify whatever he has to modify. And I believe his tone, that first, I think he did well. I think we're getting there.
And he never really called Joe a loser or anything like that, or called him crooked, or the whole time.
He could have went off on him, and he didn't.
Right, because Joe said that he was. I mean, Joe was the one calling names this time, and so I was proud that he didn't call him names. He didn't do those things, whatever. And so that part was good. So obviously a clear win for Trump. So then, as the next day, Biden goes to North Carolina, and I'm judging the show, and Dale's whatever, you have to turn on the news, whatever. And so explain what happened in North Carolina, Dale.
He came out on stage, and I'm not saying it was perfect, but if you watched Joe during the debate, you would have sworn this was a different person. And again, that's setting the bar very, very low. I don't think anything amazing compared to anybody else that is out on the stump. Nothing compared to where Trump is. But comparing and contrasting his next day out on the stump in North Carolina versus the debate, it was a different person. Explain to me how this is possible.
It's just like the State of the Union. I think, and I haven't even told you this, but if you watch the State of the Union, he was so amped up and all this other stuff. And then there was several people, like Trump had put out there that he wanted both of them to take a drug test, all this other stuff. I think that they were afraid that if they amped him up too much, that not that there would be, but this would be more calls for a drug test. And I just think that they probably erred on the side of caution and didn't give him anything. Well, then it was so bad that they put him back in the State of Union drugs the next day for North Carolina.
No, I think you're exactly right. And when you put him on the whatever it is, and there's no question there's something. I'm not even saying it's illegal or anything like that, but there is something going on. I'm sure
he's got a prescription for it.
Yeah. So with that said, when they do put him on there, he starts to yell a little bit. He gets a little more angry. Kind of like what you saw at the State of the Union, I guess, is what it was more similar to. It was a different person. It has to be better just because he was so comatose debate night, but I think they have a difficult time. They would love to hit that middle ground, and I assume that's what they tried to do at the debate, and they did not give enough. I guarantee you they didn't hold back the next day on whatever it was they were giving him, because he was wound up.
Right. And so then when you have that, well, the big thing is they're still just saying he's got to bow out, he's got to withdraw, he's got to do all this other stuff. Well, I told Dale, I guess Friday morning when I was leaving Key Main Junior Nationals flying the next show, I said, here's the thing. This the only way that Joe will be taken out is he has to step aside, and I don't think he's going to do that, or they will have to invoke the 25th Amendment and remove him from office. And Dale told me I was crazy. And then the next, like an hour later, here we have Democrats saying that cabinet members are talking, and then Chip Roy, a couple of days later, Chip Roy makes calls for it, whatever. And that's part of the reason that we wanted to bring Chase in here. Joe, and then Joe's family all huddled together at Camp David on Sunday, and they made the decision that Joe is still going to run.
Yes, or just did not decide to not run.
And
I
so
think that was always assumed, but yes, they didn't pull him out.
And they're all, you can do it, you're the one to do it, you're all this other stuff. And I think and the reason I want to bring Chase in on invoking the 25th Amendment, like I told, and it just got confirmed again before the Supreme Court decision came out. So all of this money that has been gathered and pledged and taken in is pledged to Joe Biden. Now, it can, and they clarified this since I talked to you, Dale. If Joe steps down, it does go to Camel Toe because she is the vice president, but it can only go to her. So herein lies the rub. Not only for them to give this money to anybody else,
and they have to have the money. They have to use it
because there's not enough money, there's not enough time, and there's not enough, especially with a new candidate that people don't know as much about, all this other stuff. It goes from Joe to Camel Toe. Camel Toe has worse numbers than Joe does. So their biggest problem is they have no funds. And I'm telling you right now, Camel Toe is not going to step aside. She's not going to do it. She's not. And so I think that is the rub, and that in where we're at. And so I want Chase to explain in detail how they would go about invoking the 25th Amendment.
So with that said, this is unprecedented that if they decide that they want to encourage Joe to step down and he will not, or if he does, let's say Joe, and I'm going to get into it, but I'm going to let Chase come in first. If Joe were to say, I'm out, which right now we're saying he's not going to do that at the moment, and Camel Toe decides, well, obviously she's stepping up. Where is that? What happens then when they are aware? And everything that I'm going to do before Chase says anything, much of everything that goes on in my mind is based on a theory that those that control the Democratic Party, if they truly believe Joe cannot win, they will do everything physically possible to get him out or off the ticket, I should say. As of right now, the pretense is the wagons have circled. We've gone from let's throw Joe under the bus. He's lost it, all that, to all of a sudden, all the CNN, the MSNBCs, Obama, Clinton, they're all saying Joe is the one. Joe is the one. They're behind him 100%. And I have a theory about that. But as of right now,
my theory is they forgot about the money.
Maybe.
That is my theory.
Well, so we know Joe either has to step down on his own.
No, he has to step down on his own or invoke the 25th Amendment.
Yes, those are the two things. Chase, lead us into the 25th Amendment so we can determine whether that's even possible.
All right. So, 25th Amendment. The way it works is that if the vice president and the majority of the cabinet determine the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of the office, which there's no real rules or guidelines for, they just kind of have to feel like it, which is a pretty easy case to make in Joe Biden's case, assuming that he gets back into office. Then they have to make a written declaration of that sentiment to the president pro tempore of the Senate, who is the leader of the Senate when the vice president isn't doing that themselves, and to the Speaker of the House of Representatives. The moment they submit that, The VP just gets all the powers and becomes acting president. There's no fight, no nothing. They just get that. Now,
so if today,
yeah,
the vice president chooses to invoke the 25th Amendment, how many cabinet members are there?
I don't know.
Do we know?
The cabinet members are the heads of all the departments, like Department of the Interior, Department of Education, Department of Homeland Security. I think there's something like 30 of them, but I'm not 100% sure.
These were all appointed by the Biden administration.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or approved, one of the two. So in theory, they're pretty loyal supporters. But you're saying if they get the majority to
And
go
the
with
VP.
the vice president,
Yep.
then all that Kamala has to do is submit that to the Senate and the House. And as soon as it's submitted, not the Senate and the House doesn't have to do anything. Is that correct?
Yeah. The moment
She's
it's
just
submitted,
advising them this is happening.
Yeah.
And then it's over, done. And this could happen today, in theory.
yes, there is a recourse for the president, however. Now, the president can dispute this declaration and submit his own declaration to those same people within the next 4 days. Or sorry, no, I'm jumping too far ahead. If he submits his own declaration to the House and the Senate, then he has the ability to essentially force them to show up within the next 2 days. Then Congress has 3 weeks from there to get to a conclusion.
Okay, you lost me there. So he can basically appeal.
Yes.
Yeah.
2/3 of both the House and the Senate have to agree that he is unfit to be president, and then they can force him out and keep the VP in. However, if they don't come to a 2/3 majority, then the president immediately assumes the acting president position again. The problem
So we
is,
have to
yeah.
so we have to have the majority of the cabinet to initiate it.
Yep.
And then we have to have an appeal upon we assume the president's going to appeal this to the Congress.
Yep.
Once that appeal is made, both the House and the Senate have to have 2/3 of the vote wanting him out for it to pass.
Yes.
For it to
And
hold.
If they
Yes,
don't get
hold,
that,
sorry.
he immediately goes back into president. Now, there's no limit on how many times the VP and the cabinet can do this, and there's no cool down time. They can just, assuming that he gets back into the president's seat, if they still think he's unfit, they can just make another declaration and immediately retake that position. And
It could be
because
a
how
mess.
long it takes for Congress to get anything done, they have 3 weeks to deliberate after the 2 weeks or 2 days it takes them to get there. They could essentially have a month at a time almost between when they've ousted the president and when he's able to get back into the office to do whatever they feel like.
See, I was unaware of all of this, Ryan.
They can
I'm
keep
aware of
doing
the
it as
25th
many times
Amendment,
as
but
necessary.
not that there's the recourse.
Yeah, no, I knew that the president would have recourse, and I knew that it took a 2/3 vote. I did not know that they could do it an unlimited number of times, which that would just be like voting for speaker like 172 times. Like
yes,
we did
no,
already.
you could get into that if there's a standoff there. So I just don't, because those are Biden appointed cabinet members. Obviously, I don't see enough. I don't see the majority ever turning on him.
Well, are they Biden appointed or are they handler appointed? Because if they're handler appointed and the handlers really feel like they need to put him out to pasture, I could see it happening.
See, I'm with Chase.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
It's either here if I'm Pete Buttplug, which thank God I'm not, and I have a brain. But anyway,
did you date him at one time?
No, I did not date Pete Buttplug. But anyway, if I am a secretary or I'm in this cabinet and this comes up, Biden is on his way out regardless, because if they actually invoke the 25th Amendment or even this gets circulated, he's toast anyway. Because that means that there's enough people on your team that don't think you can do the job to even bring this up.
Yeah, no question. He's done.
So you're out anyway. So if I want a political future, which we all know they do, and the rest of the Democratic Party is saying, you will invoke, he has to go, or you will never hold another position, office, whatever, I'm probably going to side with them. Because at very best, Joe's got 4 more years. If you defy what all the bigwigs and the head honchos and the deal makers of the DNC do by not doing their wishes, you're going to be toast with Joe in 4 years or sooner anyway. So I can see it happening. I do not
Only if they're in a standoff that Joe won't do it on his own.
I don't think Joe's going to do it on his own.
No.
And there was a real good point that Trey Gowdy brought up today. I think a lot of this, when the Biden family met, is they probably all know that he's got problems and he's got issues.
Probably?
Okay, just let me finish. But if they take him out, he's known the majority of his life is Washington and politics. So if they remove him from that situation, he'll just die. Like,
Yes,
I'm not
he will.
talking
No,
about
you're-
emotionally
you are-
die. I'm talking
You are
about
correct.
physically die.
I
And
agree
so-
100%.
You are in the thing, do I do what's best for the country or do I do what's best to keep my loved one and my family member alive as long as you can? And I'm not defending the Bidens at all because I think they're all crooked and terrible, awful people. But that's a very hard situation to be put in. And I don't think that Joe is going to go quietly into the good night. I think that the only people that he actually believes are Jill and Hunter. And Jill's getting more bad press than anybody. I mean, she's like the poster
rightfully
child
so,
for
I
elder
believe.
abuse America right now.
Rightfully so. That is her.
And I mean, her sister and her ex-husband and all these other people are saying that she's so. I don't see it happening. Then there's the course of action that nobody wants to talk about, but they just take him out. They just literally take him out.
Clinton. Put Clinton
Yeah,
in charge.
suicides him. But
And do you now I don't even know what we're allowed to talk about and what we're not on these podcasts. Do you think in desperation, those in control, in desperation, if they can't get him out to maintain that party, would they do it?
this goes back to Kennedy. There's more people than not that believe the American government killed Kennedy. Okay? There's more people that believe that than not. And I'm just so I think people with power do desperate times have and things. So I'm not saying it's out of the realm, but my thing is I believe at the core of this country that has lasted for longer than any other in the world history. If you no matter any way you want to hack it, if Joe Biden is not the Democratic nominee, then you have literally completely, totally, utterly gutted the democratic process, which this country was founded upon, because millions and millions of people went to the primaries and voted him to be the Democratic nominee.
He really didn't have an opponent for the most part.
It doesn't matter.
They didn't allow. No, I agree. No, I agree with exactly what you're saying. I have a
You
theory.
disenfranchise
Yeah.
everything this country
How do they get around that and still replace him?
See, I think that's the other thing. I think it's more the money than anything else. But I think the other thing is are we going to, and maybe not alienate, but if we do this, how many people are going to be so disgusted they won't vote for Trump, but they'll sit at home?
I think it'll be the opposite. Irregardless of how they get Joe off the ticket, I think there'll be more Democrats come out to vote than if Joe's on the ticket, irregardless of gutting the party or however they do it. I'm gonna give the Democrats way more credit. The Bill Gates, the George Soros, the organizer Obama, whoever it may be, and if they do this, absolutely brilliant. I've touched on this before. Bring somebody like Joe in, as they did. Ryan, wouldn't you say, compared to where you thought Joe would be, and his policy went way further left than we anticipated?
I think I said that he doesn't have policy. He's going to do what he's told.
Yes. So way left. He presented himself as somewhat moderate. And if you look at his record,
He didn't
somewhat
present
moderate.
himself at all. He hid in a basement.
They presented him as such. But anyway, he's way further left than what most would have assumed he would be at. Getting some things done that may not be popular, but very much benefit the Democrat Party. So if they can get Joe in there, allow him to get that many illegals into the country that eventually may be able to vote, that's enough to swing the vote forever, basically. Some of the other green agenda, the electric vehicle push, all of the things that Joe has stood behind, that the American public, I believe the majority of them are against, at least there is a 50 to 55% of the population minimum are against most of those things. They can hang it on Joe. Right now, Joe goes out, debates earlier than ever before, falls on his face. Everybody sees it, just what we've talked about. They all rip him apart. And then a couple days later, we're circling the wagons. Obama and company are all getting back behind Joe so that it looks like they're not disenfranchising those that voted for Joe in the primary and voted him on the ticket. They have enough information on Joe, whether it's Ukraine, China, Russia, whatever it may be, just from a financial standpoint, not even using necessarily Hunter's tax problem to throw him under the bus. They have enough material on Joe and Hunter and Joe's family that if the higher-ups choose, they can basically blackmail him, in my opinion. Say, Joe, we're going to hang you. We're going to release this information, and we're going to hang you if you don't step down. Joe then can take the out and probably suggest it to him because he just doesn't know. What if Joe goes and gets a physical? All of a sudden, there's a heart issue. And it was causing issues the night of the debate. It's been causing some issues on and off, and we can justify he's not getting enough oxygen. He can't think clearly sometimes. All of a sudden, that saves his face that he had a bad debate. It saves face from the standpoint that he's stepping down and putting the country in front of himself because he does have a health issue that may not allow him to continue for 4 years. And they do not disenfranchise the voters because this is not, we didn't try to push Joe out. This was a health problem. I cannot imagine there was that much forethought put into this, but I'm fearful, and it could play out as such. Go ahead, Ryan. Conspiracy theory of that all you want.
I've already told you I think you're way far out in left field on
But
that.
Would that not be a brilliant plan?
No, because it doesn't work.
What doesn't work about it?
It does. Dale, I don't care what you told me after I had watched this debate and all this other stuff. Let's say it was on the other foot. I'm telling you, if I was a diehard, the Democrats are just a different breed of people, but I don't think there's any way you replace Biden, and not get a section of Democratic voters that do not feel like they have been disenfranchised.
Even if he replaces himself because he's fearful of a health condition.
Yes.
See, I think that gives him a pass on most of them. I don't know. I'm just hoping that does not happen. I really hope it doesn't, period. So with the 25th Amendment, Ryan, I don't see it happening. Do you? I think they I don't know.
When we're fixing to get into this, I think that now they're more desperate than ever because the Supreme Court has ruled on immunity. Things I was hearing this morning before the Supreme Court ruling is that you have to wait 2 weeks to get enough information after a debate to see whatever. So I think maybe I've never heard that before, but now that's out there. Maybe they're stalling. They were probably stalling to see what the Supreme Court decision is. And so then they're going to wait for this 2 weeks after the debate to get more accurate polling and more fundraising numbers and all this other stuff in. But you heard on MSNBC and CNN this morning, now Joe's great, Trump's the devil, it's all fine, whatever.
I mean, like I've never heard it before. And I don't watch those channels very much, but they were beating a drum like, I could not believe this is the same
all the time.
people.
It's not anything.
But they were the same ones throwing him under the bus that night and the next day. There's been such the
switch flipped back. But they do that all the time. You just don't watch those networks.
That is possible.
But the switch flipped completely. Like you said, we did a complete turnabout face. And so my thing is, I don't think it matters what those people say on those networks. Are these people with the money, the big money donors, going to give the money if Joe is still the nominee? I have not heard anyone change their tune. Hollywood has said no. All these other people have said no since the debate. And I haven't seen anything since then, even though the pundits may have changed their opinion from the family meeting in Camp David till this morning. If the donors say, I'm not giving money to the vegetable because the vegetable, and I don't think it is the fact that they don't want him to win, but they think that he has no shot in hell against Trump after that debate.
Agreed. So let's take it back one step just so I can wrap my head around this. Are you and I in agreement, and I'm curious where Chase is even, that those that truly control things, whether it's the big donors, Obama, a combination of the bunch, if they feel Joe cannot win, maybe here we're waiting for the polls to come in, whatever reason, if they come to the conclusion he cannot beat Trump, do we not agree they will do everything in their power to get him off the ticket?
Yes, I agree.
Chase?
I mean, Ryan said it best. Either they leave him on the ticket and know they're going to lose, or they
which I just don't think they can't
pasture.
accept that. Those that are donating, Ryan, can't accept not having the Democrat in the White House. So you're not even listening to the CNN and the MSNBC people, because what all the donors have said, and I'm talking Hollywood and everything else, this is a lost cause. If he is the nominee, I'm not giving any more money. I think it's already turning like the pundits. I think some of them are turning.
Not. No one has said that they're going to redirect their funds to the down ballot races, because that is what they're more afraid of than anything else. They think the White House is lost, but now they think they're going to lose the Senate and Congress even farther and all this other stuff.
So you think they're cut their let's say it's gone. Let's cut our losses. Let's focus on the rest to save what we can.
That's what they're saying.
No, and I get that. That's logical. Their money's going to go to the Democratic Party in some manner, wherever they think they can get the most bang for their buck. So I agree with that. That makes more sense if they've cut him loose. I think, and again, I'm thinking dirty politics way more than maybe I should. I just think that they will go above and beyond to get him off the ticket if he cannot win, and maybe they simply can't. But you and I both know there's enough dirt on Joe that they would have access to, that they could hang him.
I think there is blackmail there, but I also go back to the thing that if you're that family member and you're like, well, if he gets out, we have absolutely no power. And what does this do for him?
And they have no money because they're not going to back Kamala. They can't. Kamala is a blocking force
because
right there.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm just saying, if I'm a Biden family member, I probably sit there and go, well, if we get out now, and if you're, I think this has been said so many times, and I think Hillary Clinton is a perfect example of this, because there were so many documentaries and books and all this other stuff from him. When I think presidential campaigns are different than anything else, but all campaigns, when you're that invested in it, you never think you're going to lose. You just don't. You can't give and go and do the way these people do, thinking you're going to lose. And Trump is a perfect example too. Everybody told him he was going to lose in 2016, and he didn't believe it. Hillary didn't believe she was going to lose. But there is something about being involved in these campaigns, especially a presidential campaign, that you just don't believe that you're going to lose. Biden already beat Trump, according to them. So if I'm a Biden family member, well, if we get out now, hunters and all this shit, they can blackmail. If they blackmail, they'll definitely use it against us if we get out, because we have no power, no money, no nothing. And Grandpappy will be dead within 6 months. I think there's more than just what meets the eye on this. And Trey Gowdy brought that out. I think that's a good point, but I don't know what they're going to do. I think this 2 week, we need to see the numbers in 2 weeks. And I think that's all a bunch of bullshit. I honestly think that they are so panicked that they're like a dog chasing its tail and they just don't know where to go or where to turn or how to get it. And I mean, they're going to have to here pretty quick come to some type of consensus. If they run him, it is done. And this leads me to the other thing that I want to bring up. The names that are getting circulated, if he's replaced, Camel Toe is not amongst them, by the way. she's not in there. Gretchen Whitmer.
She's mad, very mad about it.
She's very angry. Gretchen Whitmer. Gavin, of course. There's been no talk of Michelle Obama, no talk of your Governor Pritzker, all this other stuff.
I heard a little bit about Pritzker, a little.
Oh, I know.
Because he's got enough money to get somebody to throw his name out there.
Shapiro was one that was mentioned. I don't know, but
Your boy butt plug.
Oh, good. Let him run again, please.
Your boyfriend.
Give Gaze even a worse name. Please put him back up there.
That would do it, too.
Oh, Jesus Christ. The fact that is the first gay person that ever ran for president of the United States just still irks me to my core. But all I can say is I don't know if those candidates, other than Gavin, and I've said this and I said this again, I think Gavin wants his own race from start to finish. I don't think, and the one thing that Gavin did say in the spin room, because they think they point blank asked him, would he be willing to replace Joe Biden? And he said no, because Biden is our nominee and he's going to be. I think that I'm right on this. He wants his own campaign.
I agree
from
with
start
you.
to finish. And
I agree.
All these other people, I think they're just as easy to beat or easier to beat than Joe, because Gretchen Whitmer is a nightmare.
But she can get up there and speak and come across coherent. That's the only advantage she has. And I dislike her with a passion. And she came out and stated that Michigan's gone. Joe cannot. If Joe's on the ticket, he doesn't win Michigan. If he doesn't win Michigan, there really is no path.
Period.
There's no path.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. And she came out and said, she's on record saying that he cannot win Michigan now.
And Arizona.
So she wants on the ticket is what I read.
Oh, yeah, because she's not going to get reelected. I don't even know if she has an ability to. I mean, I don't know if there's term limits or whatever, but I don't think that she can get reelected. So, yeah, she's looking for the next big fish or whatever. And so, but I don't know. I think that they are. My true opinion is that the Democrats have no idea what to do as of this point, and they're trying to figure it out in real time. And I think that they say, you know what? Maybe if he has a bad debate performance, whatever. I don't think that they ever thought that it was going to be this bad. I also don't think that they ever thought that within a couple of days, the Biden family would shove everybody out. I mean, like, the Biden family is blaming his advisors now for this, that they over-prepared him. It's their fault. They did all. They are placing the blame on the inner circle. I don't think they ever thought they would go there, or that they would huddle up and have this meeting and say, hell no, we're not going. I don't think they read that in the tea leaves.
Agreed.
I don't.
It's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess.
But then there's other things. I mean, that's where that is. The Supreme Court came out this morning with the ruling on presidential immunity. And it's for those, I mean, I'm sure everybody has an idea. Jack Smith brought all these charges against Trump. They took it, the Supreme Court took it rather quickly. Or actually, one pundit said that they've never had a Supreme Court ruling this fast from the time that they decided to like speed it through all this other stuff, that this may be the quickest Supreme Court ruling in the history of the Supreme Court. Basically, it said that the president has immunity in all official acts as president, that in non-official acts that he could still be, tried, all this other stuff. But as I was saying, this opinion got released right when we were coming on here. The further they read into this, it is an out and outright win for Trump. They even mentioned the January 6th speech, and that said that is what presidents do. They talk forcefully on the issues that affect American people. So as far as they are concerned, that is an official act, all this other stuff. I don't know all the in-depths because they've still been talking about it, and we've been on here almost an hour now. But the TV is going on silent, and the Biden campaign has issued a thing that no matter what the Supreme Court says, it doesn't change the facts that basically Trump is evil. And
I mean, they're calling him a lot of names.
This was and the main thing, regardless of whatever, this puts the nail in the coffin basically on any more court cases happening before the election. And that was what Trump's statement basically was, is that the Supreme Court ruled it's a great day for America because now he can go out and campaign like he should have been able to all along, not being in a court, and he can go out and we will make America great again.
So if none of this happens until the campaign, he's elected president, then does he just plead guilty to everything immediatally, and once he's in office and pardon himself? How do you make it less of a mess?
I think I'm going to be real honest with you. I think if he wins, the DOJ will drop all this stuff. I think
there's no sense in pursuing it.
Right.
A guilty plea, he pardons himself. It just, there's no.
And be honest with you, I think the DOJ, they won't until after the election, but regardless, I bet the DOJ drops it anyway, win or lose, because there is no more point. You see what I'm saying?
Nope. That is why the Trump crew is pretty happy today.
Right. Yeah.
It is a win either way you look at it.
And so there is that. But and the three liberal or Democratic justices or whatever, they wrote the dissenting opinion, and it was pretty scorching and harsh. And then they wrote individual opinions and whatever. And I think basically because it was a 6-3 decision. I think the reason why is they know that they're screwed as far as this, and so that is there. So Martha was saying Trump's had a pretty good week.
And of those three, Ryan, where are they at age and health wise? Do we know?
Well, Ketanji Jackson Brown or Brown, I can't remember her name. She's young. She just got appointed. She's the last one.
She's not going anywhere.
No. And then I don't know where sort of my...
Chase, can you look that up real quick?
I'm looking it up.
I was under the assumption there will be some, and I didn't know if it was going to replace the liberal side of the Supreme Court.
Kagan 64, Gorsuch's 56, Kavanaugh's 59. Wait, where did it go? I had it.
The Biden campaign was putting out there will be a couple replaced in the next term. Maybe not accurate information.
Okay, let's see. John Roberts, who is a Republican, I guess, is 69. Clarence Thomas is 75. Alito is 74. Sotomayor is 69. Kagan is 64. She looks really good for her age, is all I'm going to say about Kagan. Neil Gorsuch is 56. Kavanaugh is 53. Barrett's 48. And Ketanji Brown Jackson is 52. So, do
you think, and I'm going off another topic, do you think moving forward, as politically divided as we are, instead of Supreme Court justices basically stepping down when they've lost everything or died, that they'll start stepping down when they have their party in office? And I know they're not supposed to have parties. I'm just trying to be transparent.
I think that's where we've been at, is that unless, and you can go back.
An unexpected death.
Right. You can go back way far. When their party's in office, or who, like, if the Republican Party, they don't supposedly have political parties, which we all know is bullshit. But if the Republican Party is in appointed you and you're getting up there to, that time, then you get out. So that party, I think they see it as a duty to allow the party that put them there to serve to pick their replacement. That's how it has been imparted on me. If you watch things, that even though they're not supposed to have a per se party, if the Republicans put you in and your term, that your time is ending, whether you can physically do it, mentally do it, or whatever, that there is a sense of gratitude that you should let the party that put you in that Supreme Court chair name your replacement.
And this is not how it was designed, I assume. But
I probably not.
Reality.
But yeah, no, probably not.
Well, we need to branch out into one more thing, and maybe you're not even done with this one, but the world is obviously watching, and I don't even want it. We can't even go into what China, North Korea, Russia, what they nothing surprised them from the debate, other than we'd allow our president to go out there and look like that much of a fool. They already knew it. They've been taking advantage of him since he stepped into office and continue to. And that's why, in my opinion, the world's on fire. It has a lot to do with it. And Trump indicated that in the debate. And I completely agree with him. When he was there and strong, they wouldn't have pulled a lot of the shit they're pulling. Do you think they would have, that balloon would have made it all the way across the U.S. if Trump was in office? I don't know that they would have. There's just so many things that would have happened differently that I can't imagine people don't see very clearly. But if you're not following the news and world events, I get it. So that's why we're here for Beyond the Circus to advise just a little bit. I believe there's a push in Europe, and this one shocked me a little bit. And I'm not a Europe fan, Ryan. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
But you
I do. My wife enjoys Europe in some situations. I thought Switzerland is good. But in general, they're a little too liberal for me. Just in general. And I would call France one of the more liberal countries. And recently, they have just had the first parliamentary vote, and the furthest crazy right conservative got the vote. I do not know how the parliament works or how the voting process works, but Chase is here. He can give us some ideas on that. And then I do think we need... Ryan, why do you think they would go that? Why do you think this even happened? How is this possible that France would lean towards the right at this point?
I'm going to tell you how the thing that I watched on TV a couple weeks ago, and I don't know how I didn't talk about this with you, but anyway, how it was being explained in terms of foreign nations and politics and all this other stuff. I think it basically goes down to that the United States is looked at as the leader of the free world, and that this is what every great country is supposed to aspire to be. That has been the history.
I don't think any of them will admit to that, the European countries.
I'm not saying they have to admit to it, but that is kind of the basis of everything. And now they see what a mess this is, and that I think particularly, I think it all goes back to more than anything else. And this was something that I wanted. The first question in the debate was Dana Bash said that the number one issue for voters is the economy. That was a lie. It is not the number one issue. And polling backs me up. Immigration is the number one issue. And I think basically the mess with our border, all of this other stuff, and not just the people coming in, but what they're bringing in, the fentanyl, the, sex trafficking, all this other
gang
stuff.
Members coming
all this other stuff. The way it was presented on this piece that I watched on TV is that they think that a lot of European countries will hold elections in this cycle, that a more right candidate will win because of the fear of the citizens in these European nations have of what they've seen happen to the United States under the Biden administration. if that makes any sense.
I think it makes perfect sense. I don't know that it's happening, but I think it's logical, and I think if they're paying attention, that makes perfect sense. So with that, we have a lady in France that got the vote. I don't even know her name. Chase, explain to me, is this of any meaning? Is this the first vote? Where are we at on parliamentary procedure, I guess, and getting this person into office?
Okay. I had to dig into it a bit because parliamentary procedure is a bit alien to me. And then one step removed from that, France runs things different than other parliamentary governments. But the long and short of what I have understood in this moment is that the seats of parliament are up for election in France. There's something like 530-ish of them, one for each electoral district. And right now, as they're going up for election, the National Rally Right-Wing Party, which is pretty far right, but that's stated by some sources like CNN, so their idea of far right is probably different from our idea of far right. The point is that they believe that they currently have the lead in terms of the polls, followed closely by the left-wing New Popular Front coalition, and then trailing up behind all of them is the Centrist Alliance, which the current president is a member of.
Macron.
Yes. In a parliamentary system, what usually happens in a place like Canada is that Parliament, once everybody's gotten into Parliament and gotten their seats, they will elect one of the members of Parliament to the position of Prime Minister, and at any point, they may hold a vote of no confidence that requires just a simple majority to remove that Prime Minister, meaning that pretty much any Prime Minister needs to have the backing of the majority of seats in Parliament, because they might be able to be put into that position, but can just as quickly be taken back out if they don't have majority support. In France, it's slightly different, where the president, who is elected in a 2-round election every 5 years, they appoint the prime minister directly, but the prime minister can still be removed by the parliament. So, say the president puts in somebody that the parliament doesn't like, they can immediately oust him. So you still need to have the majority of parliament backing you, but it won't be that they elect one of their own. It will instead be handpicked by the president. This was a practice instituted by Charles de Gaulle, a military officer from World War II and later statesman, who was actually the president of France for over a decade during the Cold War, because he believed there was too much vote trading and backroom dealings between all the members of the parliament over who got to be the next prime minister. So he decided to cut out their ability to choose who gets it and simply leave their ability to oust them if they feel like they're doing a bad job.
So with that said, what are the chances that the prime minister will be a right-wing conservative?
A lot of the news sources say you have to sit tight, wait to see who gets what seats, because at the end of the day, they do need a majority to keep them in power, because the centrists and the leftists could work together to kick out any right-wing prime minister that gets put up there. So if the right-wing party wants to have a prime minister, they need to take a majority, and right now it's looking like they have roughly 1/3 of the vote.
Got it. So maybe not a lot changing.
Yeah. Politics, a lot of stuff happening and then nothing really changing.
Imagine how that happens. That's a shocking development, isn't it?
Oh, so Ryan, I want to go back to some, and I know we're running long, but I have to address some of this. I am still beside myself that your girlfriend gets up there as press secretary.
First off, my girlfriend ain't said jack shit since the day.
No, she has not. Okay, let's go back a couple weeks. And what do we call this? Cheap fakes, the videos that were being spun out there. These are all cheap fakes. So I did hear a few people say, well, is that 90 minutes all a cheap fake that we all witnessed?
Correct.
How does your girlfriend go back in front of the podium
I think that's what
and
she
not get
has it.
hammered? I mean, they are going to tear her apart.
Yes, they're going to.
And rightfully so. I need to see her ripped from limb to limb in front of cameras.
If I would have been her watching the debate, I would have, after the first, and I think the worst part is
suicide.
I think the worst part is, it's just like everybody said, the first question in the first 90 seconds, it was done. I mean, the voice, everything, all this other stuff. And, they're talking about how the number of people that watched, and maybe they didn't watch till the end, but they watched the beginning, and he had the first question, and that first 90 seconds did him in. If I would have been her and watched that, I would have been drafting my resignation letter immediately, because I would have never wanted to go back in front of those people again. That would.
I mean, maybe they won't just. I don't know how they
will. They will.
Oh, I hope.
They
I
will.
hope. And rightfully so. And all of those that are so close to him, all of them that tell us how energetic, how they can't keep up with him. I mean, right now, are they just thinking that they can continue to pull this crap off, or they're going to back down from that? They're obviously aware that their lies have been exposed.
I think that if they stick with him, they are going to have to do a different approach. And I think Joe started it in North Carolina. Is maybe I'm not as good a talker, maybe I don't move as fast, but I know right from wrong. I think that is their...
And they're going to tell the truth thing. Experience is now, or old age is now wisdom.
I don't even think they're going to, because I don't think they're going to touch the age issue because they can't. I don't even think they're going to say experience.
MSNBC and CNN are both pushing that at the moment.
I think
that's part of it.
I think that's a terrible idea because
I'm
then
not
that
arguing that. I'm just saying it's there.
I think it is. I know the difference between right and wrong. I tell the truth. And leave it at that.
You mentioned The Way Out, that they brought it up earlier. I've been watching too much of the liberal stations, but they're going to come out with a spin that Joe is great from 9 to 4 or whatever time of the day. He's like a different person.
Right. Yeah.
I do believe they'll push that, but does that not hang them that a nuclear bomb is coming in
works.
at 10 o'clock at night?
I mean, even if they say that and they believe it,
that's the only out they have.
How does that work? Okay, so from 9 to 4, we're fine. Well, what happens at 4:01 to 8:59 a.m. the next morning? What happens then?
I do not know.
I don't think they know either, but
they have to justify it somehow.
I just don't think that's a good.
So what is your little girlfriend going to say when she comes to the podium?
I don't think I'm telling you, I don't know. I don't know what she says. I don't.
When somebody brings up the cheap fake videos,
I think she has nothing to say other than I think she's probably going to pull Gavin Newsom. It was a bad night, and whatever, but. If she does anything other than that,
she's not as good at it as your boyfriend.
No,
Mr. Newsom.
He's not.
He's the best.
He's the best.
He's really good.
I mean, I don't know what she says because, and the other point is like, I really think that someone is gonna if Joe continues, and I meant to say this earlier, if Joe continues and he's going to run, then for the sake of everything, there's going to have to be a major shakeup because they've got to be able to put some of this blame on somebody. I don't know. I don't know if it's her, if it's the chief of staff, if it's the campaign manager, but somebody going to have to hang.
When he's showing clear signs of dementia, how can you blame anybody else other than his wife and those close to him for not pulling him out earlier? You can't blame preparation on this. You can't blame the chiefest. Only thing you can blame for is not pulling him out of the presidency now, not invoking the 25th Amendment.
I don't think they're going to see it that way.
How can you blame his performance on somebody else?
They're already starting
because it was the look like you talked about, the blank stare, the looking down.
I think it is more the visual things that he did when he was not speaking more than what he said.
And how do you blame that on somebody else?
That I can't.
I'm pretty sure they didn't tell him to look that way.
No,
I know that.
I don't think so. And I the one other thing, and I'm not. If you're on TikTok or Twitter,
don't talk about that.
Dana Bash is shown signaling to Biden to look at Jake Tapper. I was like, Jesus. No. Yes, I sent it to you. You just don't.
So other than that, I thought it was more fair than I thought it would ever be coming from CNN. That the questions and
I thought the content of the questions were fine. I don't think that they tried to shut Trump up or, anything like that. I thought that part was good. But do you want to know why I think it was fine? because after that first question, they were so mortified they didn't care. There was just no way.
You might be right.
There was just no way to dig them out of this hole.
They're just going to go. Just
and
get through it.
Just get it over with.
What about all those you have 58 more seconds, Joe? He can't even speak for 2 minutes on his closing.
You have 46 more seconds left, Mr. Biden. President Biden, would you like to say something else? And then he had to take 20 seconds of the 46 seconds to figure out what. Yeah.
We haven't talked about something yet.
Oh, God, what?
The vice president pick for Mr. Trump.
I'm so confused. I don't know who it is. I don't.
Laura Trump was on the news the other day, and she showed her cards a little bit. Did I talk
Laura?
about
What did she say?
She admitted that there has been a selection made, and a few people were aware. Where I was under the impression a week or two ago that Trump basically said he was the only one that knew. Nobody knew yet, which it may have advanced
the debate,
in between.
I thought before the debate he said that he had not even told the vice his pick yet.
Yeah, this was a couple days post to here, just a day or two ago, and she did not want to answer, but they kind of had her pinned down.
I wish they would hurry up and.
She didn't even acknowledge whether she knew or not, but somebody knew.
I wish they would tell me because I'm very concerned about it.
They're very high on this John Ratcliffe.
I don't even know who that is.
Director of National Intelligence. I don't believe a vice president.
Is he white?
But I'm going to assume yes.
Okay, then he can't be the pick.
And you're not a fan of my buddy out in North Dakota, and I think
I am not
a terrible idea.
I am not against the man from North Dakota at all. Okay, I'm not against him.
I'm sure I agree.
I'm sure he has ran his state of 25 people extremely well. Okay, he is what everybody thinks is why people don't want to vote for Trump. Old, rich, white guy. Stop. No more. Like, bad.
Yeah, I don't think that helps the ticket whatsoever. We talked about Tim Scott. He'd be great benefit to the ticket. I like there's a lot of good options in terms of policy that I think you can throw a dart and hit many of them that he's looking at that would be on the same page as he is or we are. But there's only a few that I don't like catering to fit the optics.
I don't either.
Only
fit the demographic that he needs. I don't either.
We have to get into the office.
Principle.
But we have to get in the office. So I'm very torn here. But the fact that those are also in line with policy.
See, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, here's a dozen that work really well.
Right.
That if Trump is no longer president, they could run it.
I mean, you can even throw Viagra in there. I mean, whatever. I don't want Viagra. I think he is as crazy right as you may be on steroids.
I may be okay on some of his policy. Others, not so much.
My whole thing is like, where the Democrats don't have any options, the Republicans have several options that all could complement Trump on policy, all this other stuff, yada, 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 yada. And since there are this many, let's just not pick an old, rich, white person. Since we
are in agreement here.
And there are plenty in there that fit that. And I think Doug Burgum would probably be a fine vice president, probably even a good president. Okay?
And I also believe we should never pick on race, sex, color, any of those things.
It goes against everything that I believe and stand for.
It's bothering me a little bit.
In this one instance, I'm going to let everything go against everything I believe in and stand for.
For the sole purpose of getting Trump in the White House.
Yes.
That's the reason we're sacrificing our beliefs.
And so I really want him to pick a woman, like worse than I do.
Do you want me to just tell you who needs to be the vice president?
You've already said Sarah Huckabee Sanders. We all get it. I'm with you.
That would be the most brilliant selection ever.
I think it would be a great idea. If it happens, I will probably cry on cue. But
and second, we're probably the same on the second choice.
Yes, Scott.
Yep.
No, that's and
I'm honestly, not out on Vance. There's a lot of them that I'd be really happy with.
And there had other than Viagra, other than him, of the ones that I've heard floated, I really don't have a problem with any of them. Probably the next one that I have a little bit of problem with is Rubio because I just don't like him.
I'm borderline on that one.
I mean, I don't, but those two are the only two that I really have.
I even heard Nikki and DeSantis come back into play a little bit, which I do not think that will happen.
I'm okay.
No, you're not.
I would be fine with DeSantis. I don't think, again, rich white person is a good idea. I'm really kind of out on Nikki Haley after
The primary
all the things.
kind of wore you out, didn't it?
I thought she was very impressive before that. I don't think she's impressive. And most importantly, I think she is a bitter bitch. And
Yes,
I
she
do
is,
not
yeah.
like bitter bitches. So, yeah, I'm kind of out on her.
Well, Chase, we brought you in on some technical things. I'm just curious, and I have not had this discussion with Chase at all.
You don't get to influence who Chase votes for, sir.
No, I will. I
No,
don't have to,
you
but
don't get to do that. And you don't get to ask him
the way
on
he
the
was
podcast
raised. He's been influenced. No, now I want to know. I want to know if he has any.
If he wants to vote for RFK Jr., he absolutely can.
Chase, do you have any preferences who you think Trump should use for vice president, or who you would like to see? Do you have a preference?
Honestly, it's either that I haven't been paying close enough attention, or the fact that this presidency, it seems to be that people care less about the VP than pretty much ever, because you've got the Democrats, where they hate both their primary candidate and their VP, and the Republicans, where at this point pretty much all Trump, and we don't care who he picks for his VP.
Oh,
it could
but
be
I
icing
do.
on the cake. You care. I don't think a lot of people
because it's
do,
going to
they don't
impact
want
whether he
Biden.
wins the vote.
I mean, Huckabee seems like a fair choice. I'm not going to deny that. But at the end of the day, I think he'd pick probably just about any popular Republican figure, run with it. And there's enough Republicans that are already hard against Biden at this point and like his policy that it'd be hard for him to pick somebody who would turn Republicans away from him. It's just about picking somebody who I guess could get the people who are undecided.
That's the thing, the independents. That's why I've been like, pick a woman, for God's sakes. Because, I mean, if you can boil down the last election of this, whether you, and, you know, the further we go, we know there's more fraud than anybody wants to put on, but you can boil the last election down to this. Trump lost the 2020 election because he lost suburban women. And my point is if he picks a woman as his vice president, I think that will do more to show not only suburban women, but all women, that he's not a misogynist, he's not a sexist, he's not And so for that point alone, I'm just like, please pick a lady, please.
And you do not believe my friend out in South Dakota is probably the right one.
Well, I don't think she is, because I don't think women like her, because she's a lot better looking and smarter than they are. So I don't think she is probably the right choice, because ladies, y'all can send me hate mail. You ladies do not like people that are hotter than you. You don't. You just don't. You're not going to go vote
I
for
don't
her.
know if that's a fact.
Yes, it is.
Well, not for everybody.
The majority, by far the majority.
Please send some hate mail on that one, please. Well, I'm pretty good. I think I got a lot off my. I feel better. I don't know if our listeners gained anything, but I feel better.
I'm glad that you feel better.
Chase, do you have anything to add? Are you good?
I mean, I think we probably hit all the big points.
Okay.
And Chase, you do not let your father tell you who to vote for. You cast your own vote, your own opinion, and do whatever you want to. And he cannot cut you off regardless, because he will never know who you voted for. So you don't let him influence you.
So I do have one last thing to address. I believe Katie's birthday is like 4 days before voting.
Uh-huh.
And I do know that my wife was actively looking in how do we get her. How does that all happen where she's registered to vote in time? I don't know. That's one I need to probably look into.
Have you asked Katie her opinion on?
She's about as conservative as they get.
Okay, because like you may not.
Not too worried. No, not too. Chase, we're pretty good there. I assume she's pretty outspoken.
You're not going to worry about her voting anything but Republican. It would take.
No, she gets herself in a little. I believe she gets a little outspoken even in school.
Normally, she doesn't agree with Dad, so I was like, you may not want her to vote.
No, she's pretty strong on this one.
No, she's going to shoot her mouth off. It'd be difficult for her to go to. We think she's going to have to learn how to tone it down a little when she gets to places like college, where you got to maybe bottle it up a little. Otherwise, your professors might grade you a little harsher.
Oh, that's terrible.
She'll be the one that will argue with them.
Mm.
Well, guys, thank you so much. We will have this. This is obviously going to drop before the Beyond the Ring episode, or we hope so. But we look forward to doing another Beyond the Circus. We've done very few of them lately, but we'll try to continue to do more as we get closer.
We did one after the State of the Union, you fool.
But it was like 10 months since we'd done one at that time. But as we get closer to the election, I'm sure there'll be a few more. And Chase, but maybe we'll even try to get you in once in a while to make.
No, I want you to tell your listeners this president that you have lined up, this presidential
candidate.
Yeah.
I do have one. If you're okay with doing it.
Yeah, but you won't tell me who it is.
No, that is confidential. It's got to be that moment, that surprise. Like, wow, we've got somebody pretty good out here.
Okay, yeah, I'm all for it. Get with it.
Okay, we're on it. Until next time, be safe.
Y'all come back now, you hear?